is failure's not doing something that doesn't work. Failure is doing nothing at all. So I try to say to you, go out there and get it done. If you get it done and it doesn't work, well, we'll regroup, try again. The challenge is in the legislature is that everybody wants to be the voice. What do we got to do to make the state better? What's the better thing in education? What's the better thing in healthcare? What's the better thing in infrastructure? How do we work together? So many people miss what they're called to do. And then they become frustrated or disappointed in their own life. The most disappointed people I've ever met are people that felt created to do a thing and never did the thing that they felt created to do. They did something else because they needed a job, they needed a degree, they needed the money, and they didn't end up doing that which they felt God had created them to do. So to your audience, I would say, don't miss that. It's never too early, never too late. Whatever it is you feel that you've been created to do, find a way to do it, and you'll have a happy life.
This is the Clark Connection Podcast, where 12 years of coaching championships meets real-world leadership. Coach Clark broke through at the highest levels. Now he's bringing you the playbook. Every week, real leaders, real wins. Real strategies you can use Monday morning. If you're done with theory and ready for results, this is your show. You in? Let's go!
And welcome to the Clark Connection Podcast, where our mission is to help you grow as a leader, maximize your potential, and lead with purpose in every area of your life. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, leadership speaker, trainer, coach, and someone who is passionate about helping individuals and teams win from the inside out. If this is your first time tuning in, the Clark Connection Podcast is all about leadership development, personal growth, and practical strategies you can apply immediately to become the leader where you were created to be. Today's episode is all about leadership, delegation, and building teams that don't just function but thrive. We're diving into what it really looks like to lead with humility, develop people, and step into a purpose-driven life. But before we jump in, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Clark Connection Podcast is powered by Coach Clark Leadership and Development. We help organizations develop leaders who multiply leaders through live training, executive coaching, and cultural strategy. And if you want to grow alongside other serious leaders, join our Leadership Multiplier School community. It is a space built for intentional leadership growth, connection, and accountability. Learn more at coachaclark.com. This episode of the Clark Connection Podcast is proudly brought to you by Hubbard Flooring Studio. Leadership, growth, and success all start with a strong foundation, but the details matter too. Vicki and her team don't just specialize in high-quality flooring. They also offer Hunter Douglas blinds, bringing both function and design together in one place. Whether you're building, renovating, or upgrading a home or business, Hubbard Flooring Studio helps you create a space that reflects quality, intention, and excellence. From the floors you stand on to the light you let in. Now, if you're ready to work with people who care about craftsmanship and getting it right, visit hubbardflooringstudio.com or call 225-924-1582. Hubbard Flooring Studio, covering you from the ground up. Shout out to Steadfast Electric for supporting the show. When your power needs to be reliable, not just good enough, Brian and his team deliver safe, dependable electric work for homes and businesses. No shortcuts, no guesswork. Learn more at steadfastelectric.com or call 225-457-7957. Steadfast Electric, reliable power done right the first time. I want to recognize Bobby with the Comfy Quest LLC for sponsoring the podcast. Bobby specializes in craniosacral therapy, a highly specialized form of bodywork. This work helps the body release deep tension, regulate the nervous system, and truly reset. To learn more or book a session, visit massagebook.com/acomfyquest or call 225-773-0307. a comfy quest, specialized craniosacral therapy for a real nervous system reset. A big thanks to Automate Integrate Professional Services for backing the show. Andrew helps businesses simplify, automate, and integrate their systems so leaders stop wasting time on manual work and start focusing on growth. Visit automate-integrate.com or email Andrew at automate-integrate.com. Automate Integrate, systems that work so you don't have to overwork. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Bob Smith, chiropractic internist, for sponsoring today's episode. Dr. Bob focuses on identifying the root cause of pain and dysfunction, not just covering up symptoms. If your body isn't performing the way it should, this is the kind of care that looks deeper. Learn more at brspine.com or call 225-291-2626. Dr. Bob Smith, finding the root cause, not just chasing symptoms. Thank you once again for making this possible. This show would not be here without you guys. Also, make sure you stay connected with me outside the podcast. Now, you can follow me on social medias at coach_A_Clark. And if you haven't already done so, be sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're getting value from this podcast, share it with somebody who needs it, because leadership is not meant to be done alone. Now, let's talk about today's guest. Now, Rick Edmonds is a man who has walked a unique leadership journey. From serving as a pastor to stepping into the world of politics as a state senator, in this conversation, he shares powerful insights on what it takes to lead in high-stake environments, how to effectively delegate, and why humility is one of the most important traits a leader can have. We also dive into building strong teams, developing leaders around you, and understanding what leadership is not about doing everything yourself, but about creating wins for others. If you've ever struggled letting go, trusting your team, or figuring out how to lead with purpose, this conversation is going to challenge you and stretch you in the best way possible. So let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Senator Rick Edmonds. And welcome to the show, Senator Edmonds.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Any better than I'd be twins, and then I couldn't stand myself.
There you go.
Yeah, so I appreciate you taking a little time to get on here and share with the people. I know right now the big push for you is you're running for U.S. Congress. So what is it that inspired you to want to do that?
Well, I give you a little backdrop. This is my 11th year in the Louisiana legislature. So I think, you're automatically keyed into what's going on both nationally and locally. And I know I am. And so it's been about a year since Congresswoman Julia Letlow there were some little indicators out there that she was thinking about the United States Senate run. And, if you're really trying to think about doors opening and closing, and that's kind of me, I'm kind of praying about, looking at, just trying to decide what doors are opening and closing. And so about a year ago, we started listening pretty solid that she was thinking about it. And last June, we thought probably she would announce, and she didn't. And so we just waited for her to see if the door would open. And if the door opens, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Enjoy my role, love my role in the Senate. And so about January, I'm coming back from a hunting trip in the bedroom, changed the clothes, and somebody started texting me, how your phone starts buzzing, and they were going, hey, Trump just endorsed Julia Letlow. And so, man, it was Saturday night. It was 8:30 at night, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is not real. It's fake news." And I made a couple of phone calls, and people went, "Oh no, it just broke national. It's for real." And so she made a little acknowledgement that had occurred, but it was a Tuesday just following that Saturday night that she had announced. I'd already put together a little skeleton crew months and months prior to that if this were to occur, we'd be ready. So we were, and we announced that Wednesday morning after she announced Tuesday. that we offer ourselves as an opportunity for United States Congress in District 5. So here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think one thing that I don't want to skip over that you said that was important was the fact that, hey, we had a plan in place already just in case. Now, was that always the case in Senator Edmonds' life, having that plan in place?
Well, I think probably most part you're always thinking about, no matter what you're doing, you're thinking about what it is you're doing. Are you going to put a team together around you? Are you going to look for people that give you wise counsel? Are you going to pray about it? What does your family think? What is what does your spiritual leaders think around? I think all of those to me are, they're not every day, but yet they're every day. I'm not going to somebody and asking for counsel every day, but I think you're always, thinking about those people around you that really matter, because these things are very complex. You don't want to make sure you got those people with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I kind of want to take a moment and go back to the beginning. Let's talk about, how did you get to where you currently are? So if you don't mind taking us back to how did this all get started?
Well, I'm a longtime pastor, and in fact, when I was a teenager, I always loved politics. I don't necessarily know why. I think I can identify and say, well, it just happened, but I did. I just loved it, and I'm the kid that would want to stay up at night and watch the presidential election when everybody was announcing that they're. Hey, for these 30 votes, the state of Louisiana is going to nominate the next president of the United States. And I begged my mom, could I watch that on TV? So I did. And then in my high school, I was always president of my class, and I was a very large school, and it was a big deal. My first campaign handout was pencils with my name on it. So I enjoyed doing that stuff, and was successful. When I went into ministry, it kind of felt like that door closed. I'd help other people, and I was interested, but it really just kind of closed. And one fall morning, back in November of 2013, I just felt really strong that I was not doing enough. And I really thought that I was doing a lot, but it was not enough. That's the way I felt. And so that long story that you and I don't have time this morning turned into me resigning out of in the spring of 2014. I moved to Baton Rouge. I became involved as the vice president of Louisiana Family Forum, which is a policy group that was built from a guy named Tony Perkins and Gene Mills, but it was built off of James Dobson's program called Focus on the Family. I don't know if you've ever engaged with those guys. A big, super large group. And so I started working, in the legislature. I was lobbying, sort of. Really wasn't a lobbyist, but that's what I was doing, looking at bills as they're relating to family and home and life and education and those kind of things. And lo and behold, I just didn't think that my guy in my area was really, I didn't think he was voting up to par. So I came home every night and I told Cindy, I said, I'm going to watch and see what he does. And if he doesn't do better, I'm going to run for state representative. And so I did in 2015. I ran for state representative and made the runoff, and then won the runoff, and here we are, 11 years later. That's the 2-minute version of a 10-year plan.
Yeah. No, I love that. And so you said you started off as a pastor. Where did you start off pastoring?
Well, I started actually traveling. I started speaking when I was 18 years old, so I was really on the road a lot, and I did a lot of youth camps and a lot of inspirational, kind of motivational, kind of, you're at camps, you're at churches on Wednesday nights, Sundays, and I did that for years. And then, but I've served in Baton Rouge, I've served in Shreveport, I've served a 7-year stint in Tampa, Florida. So, it's been a great life. I mean, Cindy and I have enjoyed ministry everywhere, and so that full circle. I guess my involvement in Baton Rouge. I moved here in 20. Let's see, got to get my dates right here. So long ago, 1988. I moved to Baton Rouge. Went on staff at Parkview Baptist Church. I was the youth pastor, associate pastor. I pastored the school. They had still have a very large school. So I just got involved in all of that stuff years ago, and it's been a great training field.
And so how long were you at Parkview?
7 years. I was there
7
7.
years.
Yeah, I was at Calvary Baptist in Shreveport for 12. Of course, Family Forum that I mentioned, and now, here I am. This is 2014 is when I left Shreveport again for the second tour, and came back to Baton Rouge. So we're back here. Love Baton Rouge. 3 of our sons. We have 4 sons and 4 daughter-in-laws, 8 grandchildren. 3 of the sons and their children all live right here in Baton Rouge now. So we kind of relocated the Edmonds clan.
I mean, it's not such a bad area to live in either. I mean,
Love it. No, we love it.
that's where I am too.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people complain about traffic and all of that, and I understand. I mean, I don't want to get stuck on the bridge any more than anybody else does. But listen, if I go to Houston or Dallas or Orlando, I mean, the traffic's everywhere. So it's just a matter of whether you really like where you live or not, I think. And we love Baton Rouge. It's a great place to call home.
It is. And when I always tell people when they're complaining about the traffic, I'm like, well, you got to look. Baton Rouge just exploded due to Katrina. Like it wasn't this bad until 2005. And then there just became all these people here and it wasn't ready to move.
Yeah, no, it's obviously infrastructure is an issue, and we've never really caught up or got ahead of the curve, so to speak, and we're paying the price for it. But we're working hard on it to try to see if down the road we can get it in the necessary movement of traffic and congestion.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then you'd mentioned as well that you always enjoyed like connecting with people. Like how does the relationships play into what you do as a leader?
Well, I think if you're investing in people, first of all, I think to be a leader, you got to like people a little bit. I mean, some people are live above the fray, but you got to like being with people, being around people, and caring something about sort of their environment, what's going on in their family, what's really their thing that they love the most. And if you're going to lead somebody, you got to, and I think about it like coaching a lot. And coaching's changed through the years, and I've spent a lot of time coaching. And when you look at a kid that you're coaching, it used to be that you could just motivate all kids almost through fear or anger or this high level bar that you just pressure. I mean, you could really just pressure every kid, and then they would respond. But man, that has changed greatly. So you got to find out where the kid is, and as you begin to, learn that kid, the personality style, what's the home environment, what's their point of breakdown. If you overpressure, you'll find a young man, and I've always coached somewhere about middle school kids. You take a child that doesn't have a strong home environment, or maybe doesn't have a strong role model male in their, and if you overpressure now, the way I think I see it is that sometimes the kid will either pull away from you or collapse, or so you got to learn something about the personality and the makeup of that person, I think, in order to lead them. And I think the legislature and life in general is all very similar.
I agree. I was having that conversation with somebody the other day. They were talking about, oh, you know, workers aren't the same anymore on just kind of on and on. And it's not this, it's not that. And I was like, no, it's because we as leaders haven't changed. That we hadn't taken and said the environment's changing, the culture's changing. It's up to us to make sure that we connect with them to make our workers better. It's about elevating them, not ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's a challenge. Learning how to lead, I don't think it ever stops. I think that you're constantly evolving as a leader. It's almost like a lot of things in life are that way. Cindy and I have been married successfully for a long time, and we love each other. But, marriage is a work in progress. And if you don't work on it, if you don't invest in it, you don't get much back, or you don't have much success in it. Well, leadership's, the same. If you get very dormant or satisfied, I think what happens is you get flatlined, if you will. Maybe that's an idea to look at. You don't see the graph going up, and you don't have any peaks and maybe not as many valleys, but you just get flat. And I think that's when, whether it's churches or schools or politics, whatever it is you're doing, I think that that's when you're not being as successful as you're probably designed to be.
If you're listening and thinking, my team needs this, that's exactly why Coach Clark Leadership and Development exists. We partner with businesses, churches, and organizations that want practical leadership training, not theory, but tools leaders can use immediately. If you're responsible for developing people, let's talk soon. Visit CoachAClark.com. And I think you bring up that good point. If you're not investing in yourself, you're not investing in those around you, you can't possibly take somebody where you haven't been. I think that's a very important thing for us to know as well. Now you'd mentioned, and I thought staying on that frame, you talked about, leading at a school versus leading at a church versus leading in the political arena. Like what would you say is the comparison there? Like, are there any differences you've noticed leading at a school versus a church versus in the legislature?
Yeah, I really do. I think that, like, for example, when you're the leader and I was fortunate enough to work in some very large church environments. And in those church environments, they had maybe a very large missions program, or maybe they had a very large school or daycare or preschool, early childhood, any of those kind of things. I think that environment changes. Every church is not the same. So I've been in those that had multiple things like that. And you're the CEO kind of leader. You could be. I'm a delegator style more than a taskmaster. So I find people that that like to work and serve. They're sort of self-motivated. I work best with people that are more self-motivated than people that I got to just drive them all the time. And if you delegate, the strengths of a delegator is once you give it away, you gotta design what you want them to do, and then you got to give it to them. And the good about that is it's great when it works, but it's bad when they fail because they're not that style. That's what I've noticed in a lot of leadership in, say, the church or school world, is if they really need a lot of hands-on, I mean, you got to put every box out for them, every list, you got to go through it with them. Some guys are good taskmaster kind of leaders. They're list makers, and they go with you and say, okay, let's go over this and let's go back and see what you did today. And then as they do it, you go down the line, check every box, and at the end of the day or the end of the week, you do that over and over and over. My style is more of, I find somebody that I like to work with. I delegate that responsibility to give them the guidelines, try to tell them what I'm interested in, the direction I want to go, and then I hope that they'll go out there and they'll perform that task. But again, I go back to coaching. It's like I can run the ball or I can design the play for somebody else to run the ball. And if what's exciting is when you hand the ball off and then that person excels, and then they go forth and lead, and you got to let them lead. In the legislature, you ask, the comparative speaking, is that there's some of that, but you got to remember, everybody that runs for a political office, most everyone, they have some level of leadership, or they have some level of ego or super ego. I mean, the challenge is in the legislature is that everybody could want to be the star, or everybody wants to be the voice, and working together as a team, I think, is a little more difficult when everybody's driven about their own agenda and they don't work in a team agenda. They work in a solo agenda. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes. I was going to say, and I think that's a difficult one to work with. I know one that we always had, as I like to tell everybody, a recovering football coach, getting a bunch of guys together to say, all right, we don't care how we win, we just want to win, is quite a difficult task.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. You take
yeah.
that and you know that with athletes. I mean, you can have a superstar athlete and he just wants his. Give me my points on the floor.
Mhm.
Give me my carries as a running back. Give me my catches as a receiver. If they're not performing, they may be powders. I know as a coach, you'll find some student athlete that, man, could be super talented, but they're not great teammates. It's a whole lot easier when people are team minded, so they just want to win. And sometime in the legislature, and look, I serve with some great people, so I don't mean that at all against anybody I serve with, but some are easier to work with than others, just because some of them look up what do we got to do to make the state better? What's the better thing in education? What's the better thing in healthcare? What's the better thing in infrastructure? How do we work together? And if I don't get the credit for it, I'm good. But that's a toughie, because a lot of times in politics, in order to stay elected, you got to get some credit. If you don't get some credit, they're gonna get somebody else, because they look up like, well, what are you doing lately?
Yeah. Yeah, that was one I learned as a coach, is that a lot of people don't care what you've done in the past. They care about what you've done for me lately. But to like you had said though, it's amazing though what you can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit. That's such an amazing thing to see. It's beautiful to watch people work together when they're all pushing towards the same common goal. And it doesn't matter. Does Aaron get the credit? Does Rick get the credit? Who cares? As long as we help other people succeed. I think that's a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing.
We want to take a quick moment to shout out today's premier sponsor, Vicky with Hubbard Flooring Studio. Leadership always starts with a strong foundation, and so does your home or office. Vicky and her team don't just cover floors, they help you step into excellence one plank, tile, or carpet at a time. And now, they are offering Hunter Douglas blinds, giving you the ability to set the tone, control the light, and create the perfect environment to lead from. Hubbard Flooring Studio, where strong foundations and bright visions begin.
I want to go quickly back to, you were talking about that delegating, and that's one of the things that is one of your strengths. What are you looking for when you're going to delegate a task?
Well,
in the person that you're delegating to.
Yeah, I think that it's almost like it's a feeling. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but through years of working with people, what you hope for is let's just say you're in the interview process, and you're working your way through hiring a coach or a pastor or a teacher for your academy, whatever it is. You are looking at some of their attributes. Where'd they go to school? What did they get a degree in? But a lot of what you're looking for is, what are they passionate about? You could have all the degrees in the world, but if you really don't like to teach, and you say, well, come on, I mean, no, but it happens. People get degrees, they say they want to be a teacher, but they really don't want to be a teacher. They have to take that job, but that's not really what they want to do. And that's a square peg in a round hole kind of deal, is that you're trying to find, what are you passionate about? What do you really like to do? And what are you good at? And I try to find out what somebody really thinks they're good at. And that's not bragging. That's just fact. Some of us are good. We're not good at everything, but some of us are better than that. If you can identify as a leader that person that you're beginning to work with, and find out what they really are good at, and then keep them in that lane, you'll find great success for them. Let me give you an example. If you're hiring if you're hiring somebody to be and if it was a coach, or let's say a teacher, or let's just say you can hire somebody to work with students in your church, and they're not a really good organizer. They could be a great speaker. I mean, they could be very motivational. They can have a lot of energy. Well, you better surround them with some people. If you're going to delegate to that person, you better surround that person with somebody that can help them with the details of administration. Or you can find somebody that's very administrative. I mean, they're a detail oriented. Well, you better put them in a detail role. They may not have the energy to be the greatest speaker in the world, and you're trying to motivate a teenager, and you just kind of put them in the wrong position. So you better, I guess, if you're going to delegate to that person, find out what their passion is, what's some of their skill and preparation. What did they do historically, if they have any? A lot of times I find out I hire people that don't have any experience, and you got to be patient with them to give them a little time to win and lose. And just because we all have failures. I mean, I try to describe to people that I hire is failures not doing something that doesn't work. Failure is doing nothing at all. So I try to say to you, go out there and get it done. If you get it done and it doesn't work, well, we'll regroup and try again. So I'm looking for that person I can find their passion and try to match up that skill level with the job I'm trying to accomplish. And I've been fairly successful, not always. I mean, every hire's not been a good one, but we've hired some really good people that have made some good teammates and great leaders.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Um, I was gonna ask if you had like an example of where you delegated something that necessarily didn't go well, but then how did y'all go about correcting it? Because I love that you said that. Go mess it up.
Yeah.
If it didn't work, we can fix it.
Yeah. Sometimes. Sometimes we can fix it. Sometimes it's hard to fix it. If you, again, if you find somebody that you really missed, I just go on the negative side of that. You were impressed with them. I've had, I remember hiring a guy one time that was just like, man, in the interview, guy, he was awesome. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't giving all the wrong answers or right answers just to give them. I think he was really a good guy. But when it came to organization, God, man, he just was not a good administrator. And he could be really good in a room, but he couldn't put the details together. And I think that there are, you can, as you just said, mess up. You can mess it up sometime if the person is willing to learn and say, okay, what do I got to do to go fix this? And then they go put somebody with them that they can delegate. If you're a delegator, and I'm a delegator, all right, if I go hire somebody that's going to carry out the detail and they look up and think, uh-oh, I'm good at wanting to be the leader, but I'm not a good delegator. That person better grow in building a team around them. If they do that, then that inspirational person can still be a success because they had enough sense and ability to start identifying people around them that could lead things that they're just not very good at. I hope I didn't jumble that up. Maybe I messed that up.
No, it made perfect sense to me in that you're always looking to how do I put somebody who's strong in the area that I'm not. And I
Yeah,
think that's where a lot of people mess up. It's like you were saying with somebody who's the motivator, not very good at organizing stuff. So instead of admitting, hey, I'm not good at organizing stuff, they try and try and try. And no matter what they do, I mean, if I were to show people my desk right now, they would go, "Ooh, geez, Aaron, that's not you." But I
yeah.
surround myself with people who are good at that.
Yeah,
I don't
and I
try
think
to
that,
get better at it.
yeah, like, like, for example, usually a lot of delegators are visionaries. I hope I'm a visionary, and that is I see a thing that I think is what we wanna do. We're gonna do this, and this is gonna be successful, and the people are gonna respond to it. Now, I've gotta find somebody that can get in on that dream, that vision, and then they can carry out the spots, the areas, the details. And if I delegate to that person, man, it's a win-win because I can cast that vision, they can adapt to it, and then they can go put the boots on the ground or the position of a thing. And it could be carrying out a coaching strategy, it could be carrying out an education administrative strategy. It's a challenge when you're a delegator, but I still think for me, you got to be who you are.
Hey, if you've liked what you've seen so far, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. That way we can continue to bring you great guests and great content like you've seen so far. Now back to the episode. No, and I don't want people to think like, oh, if you get wherever you are, you just delegate everything away. Yeah, he's not saying that. What he's saying is that in order sometimes to work and be the visionary, to be the motivator, to be the person at the top, you've got to be willing to let stuff go and let people go do
Yeah, and the
and help them
larger
through that
the
process.
environment, is the larger the environment, the more of those people you're delegating to. And
Mhm.
so your work is changed. You're not the hands on some of these things. It's not that you're not working, you are working, but you're working in different rooms in a different way because you're a leader that's taking leaders and you're motivating leaders to go do the task. And that's your job. That's what you, as a delegator, or you can go be the guy that's putting your hand to the plow right there with them every step of the way, and you're doing a lot of the work yourself. Um, you can be the kind of leader that go, oh man, you messed that up last time, so I'm just better off. I just go do it myself. And you can't be both of those people. No, that doesn't work. You got to if you're going to be a delegator, and that's who you are as a leader, then you have to stay with what you are and improve a visionary and a vision caster. Details in the room with those leaders.
Right. But then that helps you. Like, that's how you grow and become a better leader. Cause you said it. I think it's the ultimate goal with us as leaders is to become. So I'm always talking about the 5 levels of leadership. And as you move towards level 4 and 5, that you're helping develop leaders who develop the other leaders, that making it to the top. So I think that's the key right there, as you were saying, and not always being the guy in the room, but having
Yep.
other guys,
Other people in the room. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you'd mentioned one that I kind of wanted to come back before I move to something else. You talked about you like to hire people with no experience. Why?
I think the energy level can be really high when you're looking to be involved and you just want somebody to believe in you. So you can find if you find some young talent or some inexperienced talent. Inexperience is not a negative. People view it like, oh, I got to have people that know everything. Well, most of us don't know anything. Trial and error is probably a big part of our life. We may not want to admit it, but trial and error is a big thing, right? Now, I
Yes.
may not want I may not want a doctor practicing on me every day like that, but in the rest of us, I think that what we're looking for is oh man, give me a chance. Let me have this opportunity. And again, if you balance that out with somebody that has some other skills and they just looking for a start point, I think that's why you ask that is because the energy level's high. I mean, they want to do something. They want to be something. They want to win. They want to, they want to do the thing they feel passionate about. And when you find that right person, man, they'll jump on the duty and man, they'll go do it. And you don't have to press them all the time about, are you working? Are we showing up? If somebody's lazy, let's say, for example, man, you don't want to hire that person because you're going to be constantly trying to fix that. And what I'm looking for, inexperience, reason I say it's not a bad thing. Inexperience doesn't mean that you're lazy or that you're not any good at anything. It just means I really haven't produced that result yet. It doesn't bother me. Take somebody and say, okay, no, you hadn't done this before. What is it you don't know? It wouldn't take long. They can tell you if they're honest. And you can say, well, I do know something about that. Let me tell you what that is. Sit down with them, go through it and say, here's how you can do this. You ever thought about that? Go through that. That's the list of a delegator. I think you can be a list maker at that time to help an inexperienced person. And then you let them go. And then what I've found to be true is a lot of times they carry out the duty and it's not the way you would do it. And that's okay. It's most of the time it's okay because they can go fix or do a thing that it's their idea and they go do it their way. As long as they're doing the task and growing in that task, man, you're good. So it's been good for me. I like hiring younger, inexperienced. That's a plus for.
Yeah. And like you said, you've created ownership in the task. So they're more willing to complete it and do it. And energy is contagious, one way or the other. If you've got positive, upbeat energy or somebody that's going to drain, be negative, it's going to be contagious. So I like that. Have the more energetic person that's going to be positive and uplifting. They're running around the office or wherever you are.
Yeah, I think the problem with leadership, one of the challenges, I should say, of leadership is that you find people that have leadership ability, but we won't let them lead. We either don't trust them or we're afraid or because look, all of us are going to probably miss somewhere. I mean, we're probably going to drop the ball on something. As long as we're not talking about, great legal or moral or ethical values. I'm not talking about those kind of things. We're talking about, okay, well, I tried this in a classroom and man, it just didn't work. Okay, well, great. A lot of teachers fail when they try something they're trying to engage a mind of a child or a young student and they tried something and it didn't work. Okay, well, they got to start over and try it again, try something else. I think failure is, again, not trying something that doesn't work. Failure is just, as a leader, is doing nothing. You just sit there and don't do anything because I guess you're satisfied or comfortable. Comfort's a bad thing sometimes for a leader because you're not going to be aggressive because hey, nobody's fussing, they're not complaining, they're not bothering me. I can just glide a little bit, and that's not a great place to be. as an aggressive leader.
Well, it's not a great place to be as a person in general, because if you're not experiencing any struggle, you're not really getting better. I mean, it's like lifting weights. I know both coaches. If my team isn't constantly lifting more and more weight, they're not getting stronger and better. And it's never comfortable lifting more weight.
Sure.
It's always uncomfortable, but you're getting stronger.
Yep.
You're getting better.
Agree.
And so one question I had, I'd thought about it while we were talking, as you know, you've spent all this time in leadership. So what would you say, and it could be as a pastor, it could be while you're working in legislature, what would you say has been your favorite thing that you've accomplished and why? If you're watching and not ready for full organizational training, but you want to grow personally, I'd like to invite you to join our Leadership Multiplier School community. It's a community of positive, growth-minded leaders who are serious about developing influence and helping others do the same. If leadership matters to you, you belong in that room. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I think any time that you create somebody that has wins in their life as a leader, and I'm gonna go back to coaching. It's something that you and I obviously don't know one another, but if you've coached and I've coached, winning is about others experiencing the win as well. It's not just your win. My win, if I want to win a championship and I want to be a football coach, I want to win the Super Bowl of whatever that life experience is. I give you an example. When I was in Tampa, we had a eighth graders, about what I coached, and they had for the whole region, they had basically a Super Bowl in December. And if you won, you got to go to Tampa Stadium where the Bucks played, and you got to dress in the locker room, and you got to go play the game in the stadium. And man, at the end of the day, you were the champion of the whole metro area. Well, that was an exhilarating feeling. Even as a coach on your own, you wanted to win, yes, and you wanted the accolade. But really what was fun was watching all the players at their experience level, and some of the players that even didn't contribute very much, but they stuck with it. They were there in the hot, of August. The Saturday games in September, and it was just brutal, and they survived, and they got bruises and they got hurts, and they didn't get a lot of reps, but yet they stayed with the team. And man, when that trophy goes up and when that horn goes off or whatever that thing is, and everybody's celebrating, the parents are there. I mean, that experience, when you can step away from it and look into it, it's just like, man, that's the best. And it wasn't because I'm the greatest coach or I want a, thing that I can go put in my house somewhere. It was about making a memory of that thing that we were together as a team got to do. And there's nothing like that exhilaration, whether it's in sports or whether it's in a youth camp where kids are engaging, or whether it's an academic walking a student across a class, across a platform, and they just received a $50,000 scholarship to wherever that is. And you watch that gleam, and the parents are so excited. That diploma, man, it really is awesome to be able to, hand a diploma and kids giving something back to you. Man, it's about as good as it gets.
No, I agree. That was always my favorite thing, was helping the team watching them as we won, or their experience with it. I agree. That was just a phenomenal feeling every time.
Yep, every time.
And so as we're kind of starting to wrap up just a little bit, I always have one of my favorite things to do is, I believe that all leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are learners. They're constantly learning. They're trying to adapt and become better. And so what's one book that you would recommend anybody who's wanting to be in leadership read?
Yeah, man. I think that's a super tough question. I think it sounds like an easy question. It's not an easy question. First of all, I'm a scan reader, which is dangerous because I'm looking for something that usually, because I speak a lot, so I'm looking for a subject matter. And so that has been a challenge for me to sit down and read a book from cover to cover. But I do know a couple of things, and I'm going to give you a couple of sides of that that I think are very important. And I'm going to give you an author side. I'm going to use the one book, Good to Great. I think that's a good one for if you want to read cover to cover. That's probably a really good one. Of course, I'm a Bible guy, so I mean, there's leadership's all through the Bible, and I know that you expect me to give that, but I mean, really, it's just you could just about go anywhere and find goods and bads in leadership of what to do and what not to do. So I can't help but say that's the greatest leadership book in the world. But let me do it this way also. If you've ever heard of a guy named Max Lucado or Lucado, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that's an inspirational guy. But I could pick 10 different books that I would say are all about inspirational type leadership. He's a great author. So, I would say pick a Lucado book. And the other one that I think is on leadership is John Maxwell. John Maxwell, you could read a chapter and win on the way that he perceives leadership and is able to put it in bite-sized chapters. And again, I could pick 4 or 5 of them, but it really wouldn't matter. I think if you just go and get online and pick up one of those 2 authors, that's going to be a great read for you.
No, I definitely agree with Bible and Maxwell. So I went ahead and got the certification for his to be able to go and they speak and train and teach on all of his subjects that he's done. I love Maxwell. And I was telling somebody that if they because I was talking about, they're like, you always recommend read the Bible, all this. I was like, if you want to be a leader, go read about Moses. Like, that's the dude that didn't have it figured out and was open to listening to his father-in-law as he got thrown into this position to lead thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And they figured out how to structure a business. They showed how to operate. I don't care what organization you're in, but it's right there in Exodus. He talks about, hey, this is how you structure a business or an organization. Like, I mean, does it get any better than that?
No, I just tell you, and there's examples of guys like, I can't help but look at the life of David and watch, the goods and the bads, because he made some horrific mistakes. Unbelievably bad choices. But if you look at his life as a young guy growing through the whole chapter by chapter, you're looking at what's known as the greatest king Israel ever had. And there's a reason for that, because one of his greatest attributes as a leader was his humility. And so he lived in that, and that's hard. I mean, when everybody tells you you're the greatest thing in the history of the world, I mean, sometimes you want to believe their headlines. Going back to athletes, that's the danger, isn't it? Is when a guy reads the headlines, and then all of a sudden his performance goes down on the field because he all of a sudden thinks that he really is the best thing. But really, the best thing is about when your hard work ethic or your humility keeps you in the line of really trying to move forward as the better person, not just being all that. I'm just, the arrogance is a killer. So in any leadership, confidence is great. Arrogance is taking it too far.
I agree. Man, a bunch of good stuff right there. Now, the other question that I like to ask people that is, what are you either currently reading or maybe have just finished reading?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I keep a couple of books that I go back through, and I want to say this to your followers. Going back to something is not a bad thing. Just because you may have read a book 10 years ago and kept it on your shelf, you may be looking for the next great book. Either way is okay. But recently, I just went back to a book by Chuck Swindoll on grace, and it's called Grace Awakening. And I went back through it, and I thought I'd be speaking on it a lot, but really, I didn't end up speaking it like that. That's what I thought. But really, it was just going back through a book that I've had on my shelf. I've had it forever. And I just picked it back up and said, I'm going to go back through some of the points on this. And I think just sometimes don't throw away a good book. go back and see what you might have caught your attention. I give you another one. I haven't done this, but I'm just trying to make my point. One of the best books I've ever read was a book by Charles Stanley, another pastor author. And he wrote a book called The Gift of Forgiveness. If you can get a copy of it, I promise you, you want that book and keep it on your back shelf. It's one of those, go back to it over and over and over again. And I do that. I don't throw books away. I keep books to a fault. So go back to something that caught your attention years ago or months ago, and sometimes it can be a real gem for you when instead of looking for the next great thing.
Yeah, no, I have a couple that I've read several different times, and I totally understand that because it's you're always going to see it. That's going to be something a little bit different, or something that you didn't catch the previous time, because you've grown as a person. Such a good nugget right there. I appreciate that one. And then the last question I always ask everybody is, what's something I should have asked you that maybe I didn't ask you?
Oh my gosh! I guess I guess you should maybe. I don't know. Gosh, you and your book now and your difficult question. I would say, yeah, maybe something about my spiritual life. About what's the driving force in my spiritual life might have been a little more. Maybe it'd have been more interesting. I don't know, but I'll
So,
close with that.
what's the driving force of your spiritual life?
Well, I felt called to preach when I was 18 years old, and when you make a firm commitment of your life, I think so many people miss what they're called to do, and then they become frustrated or disappointed in their own life. And I think when you feel like that God has made you to do a certain thing, and then you end up doing it, some people don't do it. The most disappointed people I've ever met are people that felt created to do a thing and never did the thing that they felt created to do. They did something else because they needed a job, they needed a degree, they needed the money, and they didn't end up doing that which they felt God had created them to do. So to your audience, I would say, don't miss that. It's never too early, never too late. Whatever it is you feel that you've been created to do, find a way to do it, and you'll have a happy life.
Wow, what a perfect line to end it on. And so, Senator Edmonds, if anybody wants to get read up, get caught up on what you're doing, and see what's going on with the push for the U.S. Congress, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, they could go to rickedmonds.com, which is a website that they can go to, or they can find at the Louisiana legislature. There's all kinds of sites that they can plug into and find out what bills I'm running and see what I'm interested in or what I think is for my particular district is very important. And we're in session right now, so it's a great time to plug in to what's going on in the Louisiana legislature. Look up. It's like legis.la.gov, and they can go in and find my site in there. They can look up the bills I'm running, and they can read and say, well, that's a pretty broad. I'm running 20 bills this session. So it's a very busy time.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I do appreciate you hopping on, sharing with the listeners. Good luck in your upcoming election, and I appreciate you hopping on.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate you.
If this episode added value to you, here are your next steps. If you lead an organization and want to develop strong leaders, connect with us at Coach Clark Leadership and Development. We have a free 30-minute connection discovery call. If you're a growth-minded leader looking for community and accountability, join Leadership Multipliers. Either way, don't just consume leadership, commit to it. Wow. I hope that conversation challenged you the way it challenged me. One of the biggest takeaways from this episode is this: great leaders don't try to do everything. They develop people who can. Delegation is not a weakness, it's a multiplier. And when you combine that with humility and a clear sense of purpose, that's when real impact happens. So take a moment and reflect on your own leadership. Where do you need to grow? Where are you holding on to things that you need to release?
And who around you needs an opportunity to step up? Remember, leadership is not about position. It's about influence, and influence grows when you invest in others. If you got value from today's episode, do me a favor. Share it with a friend, post it on social media, and tag me at coach_A_Clark so I can connect with you. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach more leaders just like you. And as always, if you want to take your leadership to the next level, I'd love to work with you. You can connect with me through coaching, training, or speaking by visiting coachaclark.com. And remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep learning, and keep connecting, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Clark Connection Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast. If today's episode added value to you, do me a favor, follow the show and share it with someone who needs it. You can connect with me at my website, coachaclark.com, or on social media at Coach A. Clark. All the links are in the description. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep connecting.